Really excited to bring in into the panel now my next two guests to talk with myself. Laura is somebody that I have spent an awful lot of time with. She's someone who has been a huge part of Battle Cancer over the past number of years. So it's an absolute pleasure for me to bring Laura into the chat. And we're also joined, I'm just finding my Zoom. If you stay with me, I do have my questions set up as well. So Laura, if you want to bring yourself in while I just bring up my questions and introduce our lovely next guest, Professor, will be 1 second.
Hey Scott, how you doing?
Hello.
Hello, nice to see you.
It is lovely to see you. I imagine we're not too far from each other, but I just thought while I am bringing up my other little documents to go through, if you could just introduce yourself. I'm sure you don't really actually have to, but if you could just introduce yourself, that would be wonderful.
I will, absolutely. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having me, to the team at UK Active. It's a real honour. It's a pleasure. My name's Laura. Not many people know my surname, so Hoggins is actually my name. I don't talk about it much. But many years ago, I started fitness and I got some big arms, so biceps also works. I'm a PT, I'm a director of a gym chain in London called The Foundry. We currently have 3 sites, hoping to expand. I'm also an author, a podcast host, and do a bit of average weightlifting. And I think I'm one of Scott's #1 fans, so it's a pleasure to be here.
No, thank you so much. And I think she's also doing a massive disservice of herself there, but we won't just turn this into me saying how great Laura is. Also, an absolute pleasure to welcome him, Professor Andrew Lane. It's someone that we just got connected with yesterday, but I did spend a large amount of time last night on YouTube listening to some fascinating things that he works in. So, Professor, if you could just introduce yourself, please, that'd be wonderful.
Hi, I'm Andy Lane, a professor of sport and exercise psychology at the University of Wolverhampton. I've been doing sports psychology for since the mid-1990s, so seemingly a long time. I authored 5 books or so. I've been on many podcasts. I'm quite active in social media in terms of doing talks. So there's you may get the same thing you've heard before, but it's the consistency of, hopefully the consistency of the message keeps coming across. I'm quite active in my research to do research that matters. I've done some really interesting projects in the past with with the BBC and which have been really useful. And I'm currently on the UK Research Active Scientific Board, so I think I've got into that via that, of where we look at the evidence base for trying to enhance, making people more active, happier, healthier, and so on. So this is great, and I thought your talk was fantastic. I enjoyed I enjoyed a good exploration of both of your of your profiles yesterday. The big biceps, I found that funny, but they were very good. And then all the stuff around the CrossFit, I thought, my God, all those CrossFit superstars you've got endorsing your stuff there, Scott. I thought that was impressive.
Thank you. No, and I think what's wonderful is certainly, I know an awful lot and listen to an awful lot of what you do. And I think what you both do is have helped a lot of people through journeys. And we focus on that. And, Laura, from seeing huge amount of, and I don't mean this to be kind of too straight to the bone, but especially in terms of inspiring particularly female athletes into looking at strength sports and moving away from a particular typical trend that, the days of when a gym used to have a female-led weight-only area and that women were not encouraged to look at weightlifting and power-based and weight, strength sports. And obviously yourself, Professor, in terms of the help by actually studying and looking at how people approach fitness and getting active and continuing to stay active, that's something that myself is very interested in, because I'm constantly trying to reach out to people who have had a serious illness and trying to work with them to build up the confidence mentally to go into fitness again. And, you know, we work with a lot of female like athletes and participants at the Battle Cancer program who were terrified of a barbell before and told don't ever touch a barbell or don't touch a weight. So the worlds that you two exist in is something for me to continually steal and be inspired and bring into what I'm trying to do. So it's wonderful. There's a particular first key question that I thought would be great to aim at you, Professor, which is the key areas that determine behavioral change. So in terms of personal and psychological, you know, social and cultural, is there things that you've learned that are some key areas that start to bring in behavioral change to an individual? And is there something that you think you could share with the group that they could take away and, you know, like have a little think about how they can bring that into the work that they do?
Yeah, I mean, yes, there is. And we saw a lot of this in COVID, where the behavioural change models, which Susan Michi pushed out really well. And with exercise, you've got, you know, people feel competent? Behavioural change. We don't do things we don't feel competent at that very, very often. We might value them, and people do value exercise, but they often don't feel competent enough to start. And then so you've got to nurture the competence part so that they can do something that they're going to feel okay at doing. And you alluded to some of those just now with females for whom gyms could be very threatening places. And you know, I do lots of work with people for whom really want to be healthy and have a healthy lifestyle. Look at the role models of people who are exercising all the time and just can't step into that gap. So they've got the intentions, but they haven't got the competency. And then so developing a sense of competency, working on people's good intentions, but the competency is one part. And then the other part of that is creating the opportunity to do something. So it's no good. I want to go to the gym, but the only gym I'll go to is the posh end lane with all the stuff in there, and it's 5 miles away, and I haven't got a car. All those things. I'm not going to get there. And one of the things I find what I really like to get into is why aren't the park gyms just full of people all the time? I've got a park gym there. It's about 150 meters away from me, and I go and do my chin-ups there. And I love doing chin. I'm trying to do a muscle up. It might take me about 5 years to do this, but I'm going to get there in the end. And it's the chin up, and I've also found that part of the muscle up. You've got to do straight arm. You can give me some tips on the straight arm dips. So I can find. I was at the Queen's house the other week, and I thought, oh, there we go. I've got myself a straight arm. I've got an opportunity to do some exercise when I'm jogging around St James's Park. I thought this is fantastic. Start seeing opportunities. Now I'm a competent exerciser, and I'm seeing opportunities to do those things. But I know other people will they won't be in the right kit. They won't be there. So how do we then create so that the opportunities, so people can step into that? Like, I can do it. I can do that now. I can do that here, and I can be happy with myself. Because you get those bits right, the competence and the opportunity right, and people will do it all the time, all of the time. So yeah, I've gone off on one a bit then.
No, I think it's great, and it helps me kind of move in with Laura, because Laura, similar on that same subject. You know, how have you found? You know, you've worked with lots and lots of people on a one-to-one physical basis. How have you found that you particularly have managed, and you know, maybe you've changed your approach in this, but managed to get behavioral change out of other people? How have you done that?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with what Andy was saying. It's about, there's so much intent out there, but the competence, or let's say the confidence in your own ability, is stopping you from taking that first step. And I think, you know, Scott, you talk a lot about with the people that you work with, it's that first step, it's that first experience. If you've got the intent to go to the gym, and if you make it to that first gym experience and it's a bad one because the PT, the first thing they say is get on the scales, or you know, one of these that could put you off, that could set you back. So I'm really focused on how can you facilitate the most incredible first experience to make people feel welcome, to make people feel like they can belong. And this word belonging, I know it sort of feeds into everything that we do at the Foundry. Our tagline is where the strong belong. And it's not just about physical strength, it's about the other things we're talking about, the pursuit of health, fitness, wellness. It expands further than whether you can do a muscle up or not. We talk a lot about our psychological fitness, and you know, having that bit of challenge as a team, as a group, in a diverse group of people. that sets you up for life, because that transfers that experience of overcoming something you didn't think you could do, perhaps together as a team or a community. That sets you up for the rest of the day, and you can go to that work meeting or you can have that difficult conversation because you know that you've got the ability to overcome something you didn't think you could do. And I think from a personal perspective, I've been that person. So before I was Laura Biceps, I was Laura who had a fantastic career in corporate. I spent 5 years at Unilever, 5 years at L'Oreal, you know, selling mascaras, and now I'm the product. I used to be that person sat at the desk looking at these fitness influencers thinking, God, isn't that amazing how they do that? I don't think I could ever do that. I don't think I could get up at 5 a.m. and do that. I'm too knackered. But I did it. I started to do it. And I was that person that didn't look like the front covers. Oh God, no, I'm not going to make it in this industry. I don't look like them. And actually, I guess my benefit is that I'm now that person that another group of people can relate to. And hopefully myself, and there's some amazing women in this industry who have just started knocking on the door and starting opening doors, and then more people come, because you can't be what you can't see. And if I can say I can do it, I can do it. I can change my career. I can change my life just by lifting a few weights from not being able to do 1 kilo to 100, then you can too. And it's that first experience that we've got to get right.
I think there's something very common in both what you both said there as well, that you both have come about this particularly, yes, from speaking to other people, but also from a viewpoint yourselves. So that the communities and the way that you're trying to approach communities has come from a particular experiential thing within yourselves, and both gave very, great, clear, defined examples of that, and where you're coming to. Do you think that having that personal experience and then that communication is something that helps to continue to build out the community, that you living in that community and existing as the person in that community, has that helped you expand? And Laura, just to kind of jump back to you on this one, you talked about Foundry and that, what you've done there, and also, you've, the weightlifting group that you're part of as well is another separate community. Do you think, particularly by you living, experiencing, and walking a mile in the shoes of the person that you want to bring in, has that helped you grow and expand and keep that community?
Yeah, definitely. But I think a lot of it comes down to values and attitudes, and living and breathing my values, whether that's from a community perspective with the members that we have in the gym, but with our staff as well. One of our values that we have at the Foundry is take pride in the jersey, sort of having that relationship with sort of professional sports. When you've got the jersey on, when you've got that uniform on, you're performing. That's game time for you, and you're doing it not just for you, but you're doing it for the team. Same for our members. When you come into the gym, you're on the pitch, it's game time, and you're living and breathing that sort of shared values. And a lot of us, we're social animals. Okay, over the last couple of years, that's been taken away from us, and that interaction is in our DNA. So that's social identity. People want to interact with people they feel share their values, maybe have walked a mile in a similar shoes as you. And that makes people feel proud to be a part of a community that they think is doing good things, or that they feel that they align to. So whether that's, whatever that is, whether that's weightlifting or, just turning up, they're seeing people and they're being proud of the environments and the communities that they're a part of. And for me, that's about every day is kind of walking the walk. What do I do? How does that come naturally to me to share or to encourage another person, and they will then go on to cheer someone else on? So it's so important.
And Professor, psychologically, how much does that influence people? How much does that influence people to then continue to, to move forward and to keep looking forward? Because you've both highlighted that the start is a very important thing there, that, the beginning of the journey has actually quite an amount of determination of the success of that journey of someone, be it weight loss, strength increase, just becoming healthier. But psychologically, what we're talking about here, how important is that, and is that something that we in the fitness industry should be paying more attention to, is less of the physical and more of the mental?
I think the mental bit is highly unexplored within the fitness industry. I think what we're talking about in many senses is encouraging people to be the kind of the science of the self. So what they're very good at is being able to process information that's thrown at them, so they reflect on what went well and what didn't go well, how they can get better at certain activities. Be clear. I mean, clarity on the goals you've got in your life are really important. Knowing where your goals conflict is really important. And so, the idea that we make decisions about changing our future so we're happier, better in the future. We need to know what those goals are. We need to know when they're clashing. The exercise industry often talks in reps and sets and that type of outcomes, minute miles. And a slight move recently has been do you enjoy the session? Why not rate the session by how much you enjoy it and how happy you are, rather than how fast you. I do lots of work with endurance athletes and who's trying to recover, and you say, well, today's session was about enjoying it. How much did you enjoy it? And they start off by describing that goal I ran 8-minute miles. And I said, but you're focusing on an outcome and a speed when your focus should have been on the enjoyment. And so that encouraging people to have the clarity of what they want to achieve. Do they want to enjoy exercise? How do they feel going in? And what do they do to change it? What exercise are they doing? How does that change their feelings and how their feelings are, and how their thoughts are changing? Encouraging people to be good at that reflection, to be good at being able to emotion regulate, but they can get themselves in the mood that they want at the time when they want it, is vitally important and really important. The exercise industry could be fantastic at that. Interestingly, because I did in some of the preparations for that and in other talks, is that the food industry is absolutely phenomenal at that. I've heard McDonald's of now, you can bike up your phone, but McDonald's are the kings of mood manipulation around their products. The Happy Meal, the happiest part of that should be when you throw the box in the bin. But they've got Happy Meals, so they connect emotions with their product. People look forward to going to McDonald's to eat and so on and so forth. So they've connected emotions and emotion regulation with that activity. The exercise industry hasn't connected that very well. Often the goal is to get fitter. There's a long-term goal to live longer, rather than you go to the gym to meet people you like, to have a social you like, to enjoy something you're doing. And I mean, some of the talks is you can go to the gym, in many of the gyms, to watch telly. And so on. So you're trying to create the future emotions that you're going to experience around the activity you're going to do, and getting people to know that, so that they're in control of their emotions to a point that I'm going to be happy about this because I'm going to go and do X. And I know that works. And I know that works from my previous experience because I've reflected on it. And I know the active ingredients about what I'm about to do will make me happier. We're really bad at that. And we allow the environment to inform us to do that. And the McDonald's Happy Meal being one where you go off, and being one example. And the goal conflict people have around food is that they eat too much, but they enjoy eating, and they want to be slim, and they can't work the two out. And you can encourage people to be clear of, you eating because you're hungry, or you're eating because you're bored, you're unhappy. Because as soon as you realize you're eating because you're unhappy, and you realize that no amount of food will go in will cheer you up. You go, I better go and do something else. Why don't I go and watch a film? Why don't I go and talk to someone who's going to cheer me up?
I think that's really interesting, and a very, the next thing that I was going to move on and ask Laura about was like actual practical examples of what you've implemented to create and develop the feeling of community. But I think what you've mentioned there is an instant win that. And speaking from myself, and earlier I talked about passion and story sharing, and that's because once you create those shared emotions and feelings that have a positivity attached to them, that's the base and beginning of community. And I found that, and particularly making people feel happy is a way to get people coming back. But Laura, what else have you done? And this is not just from a Foundry point, but just from the community of people that turn to you. Where have you been inspired by you? What other practical examples have you done to first of all create that community feeling, but then keep that community feeling?
Yeah, so I think I'll kind of share a couple of examples. So one sort of personal, going on from what Andy was saying about the emotions and people sort of focusing on the results outcome, and actually the goal is sort of to turn up and and be happy. That's really hard to market. You know, I often joke, you know, I run the social media, my own social media, and for the Foundry. Imagine if I did an ad that says, hey guys, you're going to train with us for maybe 10 years, might be quite expensive. You're going to do the same exercises over and over again. And it's going to be really hard sometimes. Sometimes you're not, like, you could get where I'm going with this. It's really boring. So the sort of the fun, the sexy advertising is almost the clickbait that gets you in. So how we talk about it at the Foundry and myself is, what are the reasons why you join, and what's the reasons why you stay? And the reasons why you stay are completely different from the usual, I want to lose weight and tone up. So just going back onto the emotional side, from a woman's perspective, a female's perspective, I think it's about being open and talking about these things and making these things less of a taboo. And I mean, when I talk about this, it's like women's training considerations. Let's use the example of, okay, it's never miss a Monday today. Great. I'm day one of my cycle. I feel absolutely terrible. I really want to miss this Monday, but never miss a Monday is a thing. So it's about saying, turn up however you are, and we will take you however you are, however you feel. And maybe the goal is just turning up, and we adapt that session for you, because our goal is for you to leave feeling a little bit better than you arrived. That's the focus. It's not about hitting a PB today, because, you know, by us talking about the menopause, you know, period pains, you know, I've worked with guys most of my life, and trust me, 5 years ago, me mentioning I had period pains would get all the violins out. You know, we've evolved a long way. And I think it's about talking about these things and understanding the differences and the barriers to why people wouldn't participate in fitness, being open about it and showing them that wherever you're at, we can adapt. Whether that's something you can physically see, like a broken arm, or something that, you know, someone's just having a bad mental headspace day. Let's talk about these things. Let's get them out in the open. And as a community, we get over them. And then going back to a Foundry perspective, talking about connecting to the values and how we can sort of walk the walk a little bit. One of the things that we do at the Foundry is, when you don't turn up for a session as a member, you get charged £5. Bit frustrating, but you've not turned up. Now they know that that £5 goes into a fund for what we've created is Foundry Inclusive Training. Now that money goes towards paying some coaches to bring in a session that we have 1 hour a day for the community around our site in Vauxhall and the Lambeth community, for people that are unable financially to get involved in fitness. So every day we have a session. We just celebrated our oldest member, Freddie's 83rd birthday last week. And the members absolutely love the fact that they are part of a community that does that. They don't mind paying that £5 because they know that that will train Freddie an hour a day. And it's about getting people involved in the bigger picture. I'm going to share this one quote from Alex Ferguson, which really we talk about a lot, and it means a lot to us. It's about getting people bought in to not just the now, but where you're going. So someone is a bricklayer. Person one, they says, I'm laying bricks. Person two says, I'm laying bricks and I'm getting paid £10 an hour. Person three is where we want everyone to be, is I'm laying bricks to build a cathedral that one day my children will get married in and their children will get married in. So it's about, what am I doing today to help the future? Whether that's my training, my sets and reps today are going to help me when I'm 20 years down the line and I can get off the toilet comfortably, or whether I'm contributing to a community, or whether I'm participating in something that someone that you might not even think is watching you is inspired by the work that you do. So that's the mindset that we want to have. It's on a growth mindset. It's not about what we achieve today. It's about the seed that we plant for the tree that we'll all celebrate later on.
No, that's what a wonderful way, I think, in terms of how people often struggle to communicate the longevity of the service that they can offer. You know, one of the points for me to try and hit in this panel is in terms of, you know, practical advice and how it's brought back to the audience. And I think that's probably one of the strongest that we could really do, because that's something that we can all take and showcase that, no, don't just use this service in the fitness industry for 3 minutes, you know, use it for 24 hours, use it for 10 years. Don't just do it for that. And I think the last little bit that I wanted to go touch on to, and this will take me back to you, Professor, is, and it beautifully links after what Laura says, and my job of kind of asking these questions has been made very easy because you both perfectly set each other up. It's almost like we've planned it, and I promise you we haven't. is how do you sustain, that sense of community and loyalty? And I think with a particular focus for yourself is, for people sitting in on this panel and hopefully, coming back and listening again later, how do they foster that? How do they keep that community, and keeping that loyalty from a mental standpoint? How do we do that for people?
I think the reinforcement feedback is critical for people. The exercise industry it's got really good at being able to score lots of, you can go on a session, you can see how many watts you do, you can record your progress, the gyms will record how often you've been, and that can be quite rewarding. I think a good example of where you get brand loyalty is how Parkrun, the organization Parkrun, which many people do, and simply when people record a run and they get to 50, they get reinforced with a t-shirt, and that connection to Parkrun is now millions of runners every week do that. That reinforcement is in, we value you coming, we value being part of our community. And so how can we show we value people? How can we do that in an automated way that we show we value people? And what do we value? And I mean, the bits are absolutely spot on, is that people need to come. And I think the emphasis would be you get people there, and it doesn't really matter what they do. For most people, if they can get into the habit of coming to exercise, they will crack it. Eventually, they will be able to get in the journey of doing all bits and do some fantastic things. But that getting to the habit of doing it is critical to the start. And I think you've both done some fabulous examples of how, and you talk of getting role models which connect to the audience and understanding that people want to see someone like them do it. Not some flash person who can do it dead easy, but someone a bit like me who struggles and they can do it. And how did they do it? And it's just talk them through that journey. And I think that would be the route, the reinforcement, and then an identification of people similar to themselves who have been on that journey to open up the pathway of, I can do that. And I love the old, it's absolutely vital that you are strong enough to get off the toilet.
Yeah.
And I always think the strength test for people is, can you open a jam jar?
Yeah.
Because I know how hard they are. And I just think, well, hold on, at one point, when you realize that you're struggling to do that, you're, well, you see why strength is so important for your daily life.
And the things that you've both discussed is something that we, have stolen and used so many times in terms of the program. And we focus certainly on the Battle Cancer program and the events. We look at fundraising and effort as the thing that's rewarded, not the actual outcome in terms of reps and numbers. But for the program, we try and focus to people that we might increase your back squat, we might increase your push press, but we might also let you be able to pick your children up again. We might also be able to physically allow you to go back to work, or to go and do sports day, and these things which actually have a real world, real life implication for people. And so hearing what you both have said and the points you've touched is great, because it makes me feel confident that we're going towards, I think, as an industry, a better form of communication. We're communicating to the 99% instead of the 1%. And in the past, we used to advertise the 1% and then communicate to people that wanted to be the 1%. Now we're actually communicating to the audience that we best want to serve. First of all, a huge thank you. I've ran over by 1 minute, but I do just want to give people the opportunity. There's a lunch break next, so I'm not taking over anybody's slot, so that's okay. But just before we finish, I did want to just take the opportunity, if there's anybody who's listening in, to fire a question through to Laura or Professor Andrew Lane. There is a question that came in from Ian, but I'll ask that. It's particularly for you, Laura, and that just gives a few minutes if anybody does want to fire a question through. But Ian just said, love the wearing the jersey talk. How do we engage those who don't understand that analogy? Do we go out and engage people in parks? Is it with engaging people online? And is the equipment provision, in parks or open movement spaces? So is there the option for people to be engaged in different areas? But I think first of all, he really wants to know, how do we, get that analogy out to the world?
Yeah, I think I guess there's one thing, just putting it out there, that sort of communication out and hoping that people get it. How can you ask them what is important to them? What is important to you? How can we connect with people in a different way? Because there's no one size fits all. I'm going back to what you were saying earlier, Scott. Gyms that go out there and say, we're for everyone. Are you? Can you truly be for everyone? So, you know I'm not for everyone and everyone's not for me. And I need to tweak my messaging to make sure that the people I'm going after understand, and they're going to understand that in a different way. So whether that's going out and being there, just saying, hey, we're ready, we're open, we're in a park, if you want to come, great, or going to where they are. So finding where those communities are, wherever your target is. So for us in the fit community, it was actually about going to sort of local doctors' surgeries. So, you know, the people that are there and there are referrals that should do more exercise, how can we get them to do the promotion for us? Whether it's in local schools, you know, can we go in and do a talk and talk to them about the importance of exercise and say, hey, oh, by the way, we're here if you want to come to us. So it's about maybe finding them where they are and just sort of saying we're open, we're ready. Understanding the analogy of where we're at, it's just about repeating the message and your values, and the people that align with those values will understand and come to you. But it's not easy, and it takes time, and it's organic, and no amount of pay-per-click Facebook ads will get you there.
There's another question that's just come through, and I think maybe, Fresh, if you start this one, and I also know, Laura, you had a particular, great example of this, but is there any evidence for the middle-aged and slightly older age group in terms of attracting them to fitness and exercise and then keeping them engaged? So is there any evidence that shows how we, attract people who are middle-aged to, going towards slightly older age, to get them into fitness and then keep them there?
Not anything. Okay, there is, but the evidence will also be localized to the community it's based in. So wherever so if you are getting predominantly middle class people to engage in exercise, that's different from other social economic groups. I think the big challenge is for large scale research, which allows generalizability to take place on what are the factors which will help people get to exercise. Certainly, I've been looking at that with some interest in terms of how we can set projects up. So I think it's really valuable, not just but really valuable, because people contemplate but don't act on it, and those people who act on it usually act on it in January and then haven't finished by February. And so you've how to keep people involved. There isn't an obvious, there isn't an evidence base that allows me to say here it is, I'm afraid.
Yeah. And I think, Laura, you'd kind of touched on this, that because there isn't something evidence-based, it's almost a continual experiment. We just need to keep trying in as many different ways. And you cited some examples there of going to doctor surgeries, go to professionals, people who are service providers who want to try and, don't know that this is out there. We've got advice, not evidence. Sorry. So yeah, advice for getting people in. And I think actually, so great to know, first of all, it actually hasn't been studied, and maybe it should be something that's studied so we can better know how to attract people. But, I think in terms of the communication style and going to different intermediaries and groups is a great way. If we can't directly, communicate to that person, is there other people that have an immediate hand with that group, be it age, be it ethnicity, be it, financial status? Is there people that exist in those communities that are better suited maybe than us to explain and try and get people in? It's a particular problem we face with the Battle Cancer Programme. We have a predominantly white middle class uptake. So what we're doing this year is working with some amazing coaches who are in the BME community, who are leading the sessions in local churches for that group. because they don't have the availability to go to another location. They've not heard about it from somewhere else. And actually somebody who understands the nuances of that culture and that society, a much better place to advertise than myself. So I think that kind of echoes what both of you have said there about what we're trying to do. It takes other people sometimes, and it takes other ways that maybe are not, you know, just like a straight through click. So I am going to wrap up because I've ran massively over, and in my first ever attempt with UK Active, I do want to be invited back. Definitely don't want to be listed to not come back, so I will wrap up. There's just a really nice number of messages. I'm sure these will stay in the chat, so thank you so much for everybody that's thrown a message into there. Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining me. As I'm aware now, we have a break, so the next panel is not going to be coming on until 1 o'clock. So a little interlude to hopefully get something to eat, and really excited to see what everyone else does for the rest of the day. But an absolute pleasure, first of all, to be given the opportunity to speak, and secondly, to be given the opportunity to speak to both of yourselves today. So thank you so much, guys.
Pleasure as well.
Good luck with your muscle up, Andy. I'm really keen to hear that.
Well, yeah, you'll see them on Twitter. I put my efforts on there, and it's comedy stuff. It's comedy stuff.
Perfect.
It's part of the journey.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah. You know, in lockdown, I did one chin up for each day of lockdown. So I thought, keeping your chin up by doing chin ups. I did some ridiculous videos, and so in the end, I had 130 something, but not in and I built them up. So I do like sets of 8 and so on and so on. I realised that you can do multiple sets of quite short amounts, and then once I looked at what the experts do, then, well, most of them only do that as well. Few people do 50 chin-ups in one crack. So I felt much short of that. It's very, I thought that these new challenges, when you put yourself into something completely different, you've got no idea about doing, and you go, yeah, I think I'll learn that. There's so much skill involved in some of those things. It's really interesting. So I found myself watching videos, tips, how to do muscle ups and the techniques of doing it. Who would have thought it was so much in it? I just thought you just pulled yourself up.
Well, hopefully the next time we connect, you'll have done that first one.
Just get my elbows over. Yeah. Right. Lovely to speak to you.
Thank you so much, guys, and enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of the panel. Huge thank you again. Take care. Bye-bye.